Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about 5 leadership sins that I've learned over the years. And if you are a leader, a student leader, or a leader in any organization, this video is for you. If not, feel free to click on one of the other videos that I have on communication or plans or whatever. But this video is going to be for leaders. Before I get into the tips, I'd like to tell everyone I don't claim to be a leadership expert. Leadership is really dependent on your team, your organization, and the people that you're working with. So, not every situation is the same. These are just a couple of tips that I've learned over the years. I've been a student leader, or I've been in the leadership space for 8 to 9 years. So I have a variety of experiences over the different years that I have been working as a leader. And the tips that I'm gonna share with you are tips that are honestly groundbreaking for me the first time that I learned them, or I learned them the hard way. And I hope that this video will help you on your leadership journey. So let's get right into it. The first sin I'm gonna talk about in this video is expecting others to work. But you might ask me, but we're an organization and the leader isn't supposed to work alone. So of course people should be expected to work, and that's correct. But here's the thing. A lot of the times, especially when we're starting out, we neglect setting the right expectations for the members on our team. And that's what I mean by expecting others to work. So, expecting others to work without setting the right expectations, not creating expectations. And second, a sub point of this would actually be expecting others to work and expecting others to have initiative. For example, you have someone who's the treasurer, and you would already imagine, well, the treasurer is supposed to uh, manage finances. So anything that has to do with finances, you should already do. But that might not exactly be so clear to someone who's a first time treasurer or first time officer, because what exactly does that mean? Does that mean that every time that there's a collection, only the treasurer is allowed to collect? Does it mean that you're expecting the officer to create a financial report at the end of the year, or at every month, or at every quarter? Or does it mean that the treasurer themselves also needs to be the one to go out and purchase materials with the organization's money? So there are a lot of questions that we can ask ourselves, which kind of seem obvious to us, might not be so obvious to others. So one of the roles that we have as a leader is to clarify those expectations and help people work. The second sin I'm going to be talking about in this video is not building personal relationships. When you're a leader and you work on a team, one of the essential parts is building that personal relationship that you have with the people that you work with. A lot of times we kind of go into leadership, and especially if it's already been pre-made, we assume that because we are in this position and they are in that position, that we should only get together, we should work on the project, and we don't know each other afterwards. And although this does seem kind of plausible or possible, a lot of the times these kinds of organizations have a difficulty having that team synergy. So people aren't working as effectively as they could potentially be because they don't exactly trust each other as much. And because of that, other times when when they don't have that personal relationship with their peers or colleagues, they often have difficulty asking for help as well. When you're a leader, it's not only important for you to build relationships with the people who you're working with, but this is also important for them to build relationships with each other. So a lot of the time, especially when you're working on a team, you don't want to see people only working by themselves, or even you as a leader. Something that I've seen in many organizations, student organizations, is that when someone becomes the president and then someone isn't working, the president just assumes that role and takes on the work for himself. And this happens not only for one person, but maybe two or three people. And this is why you can see people who are the president often becomes more and more stressed as the year progresses. But a lot of these problems could have been avoided if we set proper expectations and we actually created good personal relationships with the people that are in that position. So, clarify at the start, did you sign up for this kind of work, or what how much are you willing to work on this project, and is this position right for you? So a lot of the times, if someone isn't ready for that kind of responsibility, it's actually better for both that person, yourself as the leader, and the organization as a whole, that you just let that person go and we find someone who's more suited for that position. And in the moment, it might seem a bit harsh because you're just replacing somebody, but in reality, you're actually doing everyone a favor, because this thing would probably hold that person back more than give them an opportunity to grow. And that's the second sin: not building personal relationships. In most organizations, people volunteer to be the president. But in many organizations as well, there are times when people are just voluntold to take that position because no one else would take it, or they were assigned by a superior, like a teacher or an advisor or something like that. And a lot of the times, the problem that you can see with these kinds of leaders is the third sin, which is being complacent. And this comes in a lot of ways, but basically, being complacent, if it was in our vernacular here in the Philippines, it's that bahala na kind of attitude. And what does that mean? It means that there's a general disregard for the things that are going on. And that kind of complacency leads to the deterioration of an organization. And that kind of complacency kind of reflects that someone doesn't really care too much about an organization. So when you're complacent in that way, in the first, you're just generally complacent because you don't care if there's an activity or not. But on the second example, when you do too much planning or over planning, you're complacent in terms of having a timeline. You're not actually working on that timeline. So that's the third leadership sin, and that's being complacent. The fourth leadership sin I'd like to talk about is not having a vision. And this can often be seen in people who become leaders by inheriting an already established organization. And not having a vision is really the reason why organizations stagnate and eventually decay until eventually the organization is only a shell of what it once was before, and ultimately fizzles out because the culture is just not there anymore. So it's kind of like an expectation that, well, the organization was successful before, so it's gonna be successful again. And I don't think that immediately follows, especially because that's the reason you're a leader. You're there to make sure that not only does the organization maintain, but also to grow. And I don't think it's the goal of any leadership experience to just keep something going, or to just be stagnant, or to just maintain something which is already there. I think leadership is always an opportunity for people like the leader and his members and his team and the people that the organization serves. It's an opportunity for them to grow. And that's why having a vision is really important. Because when you don't have a vision, anything goes. Like, okay, we'll do this activity because, yeah. Or we'll do this because we're not really doing anything. So sometimes it feels like people would only do things in the organization or initiate projects for compliance. And something is done, oftentimes when something is done just out of compliance, when you just wanted to have that passing grade, for example, when you're a student doing homework, oftentimes it's not really a good output. Sometimes it's an output that gets you a passing grade or a barely passing grade, but that's just like maintaining an organization. So if you have a lot of if you have so many just passing grades, and then some test comes along and you fail that, you just immediately failed because you were just doing the bare minimum. And the organization is the same way. If you just build this culture of complacency where people are just okay with doing mediocre tasks, eventually, when there's going to be a leader who's not in a such good position, or we experience something like a global pandemic, it's going to be very difficult for that leader, and it's likely that that organization is going to fail when those difficult challenges come along. So you need to have that vision, and that's the fourth tip. The fifth and last tip that I'm going to give everyone today is probably going to sound the most cringy of all of them, and it is not leading yourself or forgetting to lead yourself. And as a leader of an organization, it's always important to not only lead by example, so you show people that you are there and you're doing the work, but secondly, it's also important to show people that you're all right and you're not too stressed and you're not overworking yourself. Burnout is inevitable. And when that burnout happens, you push away again those people that could have potentially helped you not even get yourself in that stressful situation to begin with. And this really boils down to what you're okay with as a leader and how you live your own life and how you lead by example. So leading yourself is very important because it really shows people that even as the head of an organization, you have the ability to have that work and life balance, as they say. Aside from the organization things, it's also important to lead yourself in your own life, because sometimes when people dedicate themselves too much to an organization, like they take on all this responsibility, and eventually it feels like this organization becomes either an extension of themselves or it becomes something like their child. And then what happens then is that they don't allow the organization to fail because their identity is linked to that organization. And I don't think that that is good either. So that's it for this video, guys, and those were the 5 leadership sins that you want to avoid to have a better organization. I hope these tips help you on your leadership journey, and share this with your friends in your organization or your other friends in your other organizations, and who knows, maybe it will double, triple your productivity and communication that you have within your organization. I really hope that this video helped you and it's a good resource to you. Leave a like and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. That's it for now, and thanks for watching.